You see, my friends, it is often in the simplest of moments, the stillness of our hearts, that we come to realize the immense power that moves through us. It's a power that is not always visible to the naked eye, not always understood by the mind. It is something deeper, something transcendent, something that calls to us even when we feel lost in the noise of the world. Too often we struggle with how to communicate with this divine presence, this energy that connects us all, that speaks to us in ways both subtle and grand. Now, I know many of you have been told in many different ways that the first step is to speak, to make your voice heard. They say you must pray with the right words, with the right reverence. But let me tell you, it is not just about speaking. No, my dear friends, it is about listening. And when you listen, truly listen, you open a channel for something far greater than words can express. There are mistakes we make when we attempt to reach beyond ourselves. We approach the sacred with an agenda, as though the heavens could be bargained with, as if a prayer could be reduced to a mere transaction. We begin by asking, "Why are things not working out for me?" Or "Why have you forsaken me?" And in that very moment, we close ourselves off to what is really being asked of us. You see, my brothers and sisters, to speak with the Spirit, whether you call it God, the divine, or the holy, you must first come to understand that it is not about you alone. It's about a relationship, a dialogue, an exchange. It's about the interconnection of your soul with the universe. Too often we focus on what we want to hear, what we think we need to hear, and we forget that the true communication requires humility, patience, and a willingness to step outside of our own limited scope. The Spirit does not need your words to be perfect. Oh no, it does not require that you speak in elaborate, eloquent phrases. What it seeks from you, my dear, is an openness, a willingness to let go of your expectations and receive what is being given. Too often, we are like children who only ask for what they know they want, forgetting that there is so much more to be given than what our small minds can comprehend. Let me remind you, in the same way you do not demand that the sun rise a certain way or that the rain fall according to your desire, so too should you approach the divine. Your connection is not about your control. It is not about manipulating the moment, shaping the outcome according to your will. It is about surrendering yourself to the flow, trusting that the universe knows exactly what it is doing. And in that trust, in that surrender, you will find that the communication you seek was never absent. It was simply waiting for you to allow it to come through. One of the greatest mistakes we make is to think that the Spirit is bound by the same limitations we are. We try to control the divine as though it could be shaped by our desire for certainty. We put conditions on our connections, saying things like, "If I don't see the answer right now, then it's not working." But let me tell you, my beloved, the Spirit works in the unseen, in the quiet spaces, in ways that may not make sense to your human mind. It is not about instant gratification. It is about the trust you place in the process. It's about allowing things to unfold in their own time. The universe knows what you need, and sometimes what you need is not what you think you want. And let us not forget the great error we make when we approach with fear. We pray, we ask, we beg for a sign, but we do so with hearts full of anxiety, hearts filled with the fear that perhaps we are not worthy, that perhaps we have been abandoned. The Spirit does not come to those who are filled with fear. It comes to those who are filled with love and peace. It whispers to the courageous heart, the one who is willing to let go of doubt and open wide to what is waiting to be revealed. When you pray from a place of fear, you close the door to grace. But when you pray from a place of love, love for yourself, love for the world, love for the mystery that surrounds you, you open the door wide enough to let in all the light. Now let's not forget another common mistake we make when we approach the divine, and that is thinking that we are too far gone to be heard. We come to the Spirit with shame, with guilt, with the belief that we have fallen so far from grace that we cannot be heard. My friends, hear me well when I say this. There is no distance so great that the divine cannot reach you. There is no place so dark that the light cannot find you. There is no mistake so grievous that it cannot be redeemed. You are not lost to the divine. You may have wandered, but the divine is always there, waiting for you to turn your face toward it. Don't let your mistakes silence your prayers. Don't let your past disqualify you from hearing what is meant for you. You are worthy of every bit of grace, every bit of love that the universe is willing to give. The most dangerous mistake, perhaps, is the one where we fail to honor the space of silence. I've told you that this connection is not all about words, but even more than that, it is about listening. It is in the silence that the answers arrive. It is in the silence that you hear the truth you've been seeking, the wisdom that is always available to you. But how can you hear it if your mind is always churning, if your soul is always searching for the next thing to say, the next prayer to offer? The divine speaks in the quiet spaces, in the moments when you stop trying to control the conversation. Do not be afraid of silence, for in it is the most profound communication. Many of you, my friends, have been waiting for the right words, the right moment, the right prayer to be made. You have been waiting for the perfect opportunity to speak, as though it is the right phrase that will unlock the door to all that you desire. But the truth is, the divine is always available to you. You do not need the perfect words. You do not need the perfect moment. You simply need to show up. Show up in the fullness of who you are, with all your imperfections, all your doubts, and all your hopes. The divine is not concerned with your perfection. It is concerned with your willingness to show up, to listen, and to be present. So I tell you today, my beloved, do not fear the mistakes you make along the way. They are part of the process. They are part of the journey. There is no wrong way to approach the divine as long as you approach with an open heart. Do not try to control it. Do not attempt to manipulate it. Do not approach it with fear or shame. Instead, come with love, with trust, with a willingness to listen. Allow the silence to speak. And in that silence, you will hear everything you need to know. And remember this, the divine is never far from you. It is not something you must strive to reach, not something you must beg for. It is a presence that is always with you, always available to you. Your connection to it is not a distant thing. It is as close as your breath, as close as your heartbeat. So do not wait for some grand moment of revelation to begin your conversation. Begin now. Begin here, in this moment. Speak from your heart. Listen with your soul. And you will find that you are never truly alone. You are always connected, always guided, always loved. Now, stand tall, stand firm, and open your heart. For in this very moment, the divine is speaking. The divine is waiting. And you, dear one, are ready to listen. True communication with the divine, with that greater presence we feel but cannot always see, begins not in the words we speak, but in the openness of our hearts to listen. Too often we approach our connection with the divine thinking that it's all about what we say, how we pray, or what requests we make. We spend so much time crafting the perfect prayer, trying to say the right thing at the right moment, that we forget that the most important part of communication is hearing. The divine does not always speak through words. Sometimes it speaks through feelings, through moments of clarity, through small shifts in the world around us. These are the whispers of truth that we can only hear when we stop trying so hard to fill the silence with our own voices. When we focus solely on speaking, we miss the deep, quiet messages that the universe is sending us all the time. Listening isn't just about hearing words. It's about being receptive to what is being shared, regardless of whether it's something we can put into words or not. Sometimes the divine speaks through the rhythm of life itself, through the patterns that emerge when we stop pushing and striving. This is the space where real communication happens, where true understanding can arise. In the quiet moments, we begin to recognize that the divine is not some distant entity waiting for us to prove our worth through elaborate requests. It is a presence that seeks to commune with us, to walk with us, to guide us, but only if we are willing to listen. The divine speaks in subtle ways, a feeling of peace when we feel lost, a sense of direction when we're unsure of our next step, a deep knowing that we are supported even when the world around us feels uncertain. This listening requires patience and stillness, something that many of us struggle with in our fast-paced, noisy lives. We are so used to filling every moment with sound, with activity, with distraction, that we forget how to sit in silence and be present with what is unfolding in front of us. But when we take a moment to pause, to clear the clutter of our minds, we open ourselves to the divine conversation that has always been ongoing. It is only in these still moments that we can hear what is being said beyond our words. True communication, therefore, is not a one-sided interaction. It is a mutual exchange, a dialogue. We express our thoughts, our hopes, our questions, but we also create space for the divine to respond in ways that may surprise us. It is not about forcing a particular outcome or expecting to hear the answers we want. It is about allowing the divine to speak in its own time and in its own way. In doing so, we find that the conversation is far richer than we ever imagined. Surrendering control and trusting the divine process is one of the most profound aspects of connecting with a higher presence. We live in a world that teaches us to be in control, to make things happen through sheer willpower and effort. We are constantly told that if we want something, we must work for it, struggle for it, force the pieces into place. This mindset, while helpful in many areas of life, can be a barrier when it comes to our spiritual connection. The divine does not operate on human timelines or according to human desires. It doesn't respond to demands or efforts to manipulate outcomes. Instead, it works through surrender, through trust, and through the understanding that there is a greater wisdom at play, one that often unfolds in ways we cannot immediately see or understand. When we surrender control, we let go of the need to dictate how things should unfold. We release the grip we have on outcomes, and we open ourselves to the flow of life as it is. This doesn't mean that we become passive or apathetic. It doesn't mean we stop striving for growth, for change, or for our own development. Instead, it means that we accept that there is a rhythm, a greater order to life, and that this order is far beyond our limited understanding. Surrendering control means trusting that things will happen as they are meant to, even if it's not on our terms or according to our plan. In surrendering, we learn to be present with what is happening now, rather than constantly trying to change it, fix it, or control it. This is where true peace is found. The divine works through patience and timing, and when we are too focused on the need for immediate results, we miss the lessons and experiences that come from being in the moment. We stop seeing the beauty of the journey because we are so consumed with getting to the destination. But when we surrender, we learn to trust that the destination is already in motion, even if we can't see it yet. We let go of our tight grip on how things should unfold and open ourselves to what is being revealed. Trusting the divine process means knowing that everything has its time and place. It's like planting a seed in the soil. You cannot force the plant to grow faster, no matter how much you want it to. The seed needs time, water, sunlight, and patience to blossom in its own time. The divine works in much the same way. It is not rushed, it is not hurried, it is patient and deliberate. And in this process, we are asked to trust, even when we cannot see the results of our efforts or prayer. We may not always understand why things are happening as they are, but we are called to trust that there is purpose in the unfolding, even in the moments of difficulty, uncertainty, or pain. To surrender to the divine process is to embrace the unknown. It is to release the need for certainty and instead embrace the mystery of life. This trust doesn't come easily for many of us. It requires vulnerability, a willingness to accept that we do not have all the answers. But when we let go of our need to control, we open ourselves to the divine wisdom that knows far more than we ever could. It is a wisdom that has seen the beginning and the end, that understands the intricate web of life, and that moves with a grace and power far beyond our own. When we surrender to it, we align ourselves with that power, allowing it to guide us in ways that are both beautiful and transformative. When we approach the divine, the energy, the sacred presence that surrounds and sustains us, it is essential that we come with love, not fear or guilt. Far too often, we enter into spiritual spaces burdened by the weight of our own imperfections. We carry shame. We carry the scars of our past. We carry the doubts that tell us we are unworthy of grace, of connection. We approach the divine as if we must first prove ourselves, as if we need to earn the right to be heard. But that is not the nature of the divine, nor the essence of spiritual connection. It is not a place for judgment or condemnation, but a place where love is given freely, unconditionally, and endlessly. To approach the divine with love is to come from a place of understanding that we are already worthy, that we are already loved just as we are. The divine does not ask for us to be perfect. It does not ask us to fix every mistake, heal every wound, or remove every doubt before we can speak. The divine asks only that we show up with an open heart. When we allow ourselves to be loved as we are, we stop holding ourselves back. We stop building walls of fear, and we stop operating under the belief that we need to hide parts of ourselves. The divine does not need us to be flawless. It needs us to be honest, vulnerable, and real. When we approach with love, we stop pretending and we start healing. On the other hand, approaching with fear and guilt limits the connection we can have. Fear makes us hesitant. Fear causes us to doubt our worthiness and question whether we have the right to ask for help, guidance, or even blessings. When we enter into that space with fear, we are like children trying to speak to a parent while holding their hands behind their backs, afraid to make a mistake or reveal a secret. Fear keeps us from being fully open, keeps us from receiving the love and wisdom that are being freely offered to us. It causes us to second-guess our every word, every prayer, every desire, and in doing so, it distances us from the connection we so deeply need. Guilt, too, serves as an obstacle to the divine connection we seek. We carry with us the weight of past mistakes, wrongdoings, and moments of regret, and rather than letting them go, we continue to carry them as though they are a burden we must bear forever. We feel unworthy of love or mercy, and so we shy away from asking for it. But the divine is not looking for us to be punished or to beat ourselves into submission. The divine wants us to understand that mistakes are a part of being human, and that love, grace, and forgiveness are always available to us, no matter what we have done. When we approach the divine with love, we stop holding on to guilt, and instead, we embrace the opportunity for growth, for healing, and for new beginnings. Approaching the divine with love opens the door to grace. Love makes room for vulnerability, for honesty, for asking questions without fear of being judged. It makes space for us to say, I am struggling, I am imperfect, but I trust in the love that is here to guide me. It allows us to release the need for perfection and instead embrace the divine in all its mystery and wonder. It encourages us to see ourselves through the lens of love, to recognize that we are always worthy, always enough, always a part of the divine plan. When we approach the divine in this way, we not only find peace, but we open ourselves to the limitless possibilities that love brings. Silence, my dear friends, is not something to be feared, but something to be cherished. In a world that is constantly filled with noise, the chatter of our thoughts, the demands of our daily lives, the endless distractions that pull at us, we often forget the power that resides in quiet moments. Yet, silence is where the divine speaks most clearly. In the stillness, we find clarity, insight, and connection. It is in silence that we are able to hear the whispers of the universe, the subtle guidance that is always available to us, but only when we make room for it. So often, we approach our spiritual practices with a sense of urgency, thinking that we must fill every moment with words, with prayers, with requests. We think that the more we speak, the more we will be heard, that the volume of our voices or the length of our pleas will somehow affect the response. But the divine does not require the clamor of our words. What it requires is our willingness to listen. It requires us to sit in silence, to be present with what is, and to allow the divine to reveal itself in ways that transcend our understanding. Silence is not empty, it is full of potential. It is full of insight, of connection, of wisdom. In silence, we are able to remove the barriers that our busy minds build. When we stop filling every moment with thought and distraction, we create space for the sacred to enter. It is in this space that we can hear the true voice of the divine, Not the voice that is shaped by our ego or our desires, but the voice that speaks from a place of infinite wisdom, compassion, and love. When we learn to be comfortable in silence, we allow ourselves to receive what is being given without the interference of our own worries, judgments, or expectations. The divine does not always speak loudly. It doesn't always demand our attention through dramatic or obvious signs. More often than not, it speaks in subtle ways, in a quiet thought, a fleeting moment of peace, an unspoken understanding. But how can we hear these gentle nudges if we are constantly filled with noise, with a constant chatter of our own thoughts or the distractions of the outside world? Silence clears the space for us to hear what is important, to discern the messages that are being sent to us. In those moments of quiet, we may receive a sudden insight, a direction we were unsure of before, or a deep sense of comfort that lets us know we are not alone. This is why silence is so important in our spiritual practices. It allows us to step away from our need to control the conversation. We let go of the idea that we must always be the one talking, asking, pleading. We allow ourselves to sit and simply be in the presence of the divine. We open ourselves up to receive what is meant for us without the pressure to make it happen on our own terms. Silence gives us the chance to surrender, to trust that the divine will come to us in its own time, in its own way. But silence also teaches us patience. In the stillness, we come to understand that not everything needs to be rushed. Not everything needs to be fixed or solved immediately. Some answers come in time, some insights take time to manifest. Silence teaches us that we do not have to have everything figured out all at once. It gives us the permission to wait, to trust, to listen. It shows us that the divine works not on our schedule, but on a rhythm far greater than we can understand. In silence, we learn to trust in the unfolding of our lives, in the timing of our growth, in the wisdom that comes when we allow the space for it to emerge. So, my dear ones, do not shy away from the silence. Do not be afraid of the stillness. It is in these moments of quiet that you will hear the most profound truths, that you will connect most deeply with the divine, and that you will find the peace and clarity you seek. Embrace the silence, for it is the sacred space where the divine speaks most clearly. You see, the divine is never far from you, never out of reach. So often we get caught in the illusion that we must do something extraordinary to earn this connection, that we must strive for some unattainable level of perfection to be worthy of grace. But the truth is, the divine is as close as your breath, as close as your heartbeat. You don't have to search for it in distant places or wait for a miraculous moment. You are always connected to it, whether you realize it or not. The divine is not a far-off entity waiting for you to meet a certain standard. It is an ever-present force that exists within and around you, available at every moment. When we talk about being connected to the divine, we're often led to believe that there's a specific path to follow, a certain way to approach it, a set of rules or rituals that we must adhere to in order to feel that presence. But my friends, the truth is far simpler. It is not about perfection. It's not about reaching a destination. It's about the willingness to show up just as you are. The divine is always ready, always present, always loving. It doesn't require you to have all the answers or to have figured out every aspect of your life. It simply asks that you recognize its presence, that you acknowledge that it's always been with you. even in your lowest moments. You are always connected, even when you feel distant or disconnected. Sometimes we become so wrapped up in our own struggles, in our own fears, that we convince ourselves that we've been abandoned, that we are unworthy of the divine's attention. But nothing could be further from the truth. The divine is always with you, always reaching for you, even when you cannot feel it. Our connection to the divine is not dependent on our moods, our circumstances, or our successes. It is constant, unchanging, always there, even when we feel lost or unworthy. This connection is not something we earn, it is something we already have, simply by virtue of being alive, by being part of the universe. You are worthy of every bit of love, grace, and guidance that the divine has to offer. It is not reserved for the perfect or the saintly. It is available to everyone, regardless of their flaws or mistakes. The divine's love is not conditional. You do not have to do something to prove that you deserve it. You are inherently worthy, simply because you exist. When you realize this, when you stop measuring your worth by external standards or by your past mistakes, you open yourself up to receive the blessings and guidance that are already waiting for you. The divine doesn't wait for you to be perfect, for you to get it right. It simply waits for you to open your heart and allow the connection to flow freely. Too often we get caught in the idea that we need to be perfect, to have everything figured out before we can be worthy of spiritual connection. But the beauty of the divine is that it does not require perfection. It does not expect us to have all the answers or to live flawlessly. It asks only for our willingness to be present, to acknowledge that we are part of something greater, and to be open to the flow of love and wisdom that is always available to us. You don't have to earn this connection, nor do you have to reach a certain level of spiritual enlightenment before you are worthy of it. You are worthy now, in this moment, just as you are. All you have to do is recognize it, embrace it, and open your heart to receive it. When you understand that you are always connected, always worthy, it changes the way you approach the divine. You no longer seek it as something separate from you, something you must strive to attain. Instead, you recognize that it is part of you, that it flows through you, that you are never alone. The divine connection is not a far-off destination. It is a continuous presence, a thread that weaves through every moment of your life, guiding you, supporting you, loving you. When you accept that this connection is already yours, you stop searching for it and begin to live in it, moment by moment, trusting that you are always held in the embrace of something far greater than yourself.